All right, guys. As I said before, I am the in-house certified Cicerone from Chelsea, and I'm sure none of you really know what a Cicerone means, but it's pretty. Like I said before, it's a beer expert. I'm pretty much a beer sommelier. The reason I have a Cicerone is pretty much because I wanted it. I got into craft beers as a hobby with two of my buddies. One of them now works at Molson. The other one owns Craft Heads down the street. And I wanted to do this because I didn't want my own brewery and I didn't want to work with them. So I decided that this is what I wanted to do. I did it all on my own, paid my way through my other job, which I work at the Superstore on Walker Road. It's not a great job, but it pays the bills. So now, this is exactly what I want to do, be a Cicerone at a bar with 99 beers, which is, by the way, if you didn't know, we have 99 beers back here, and then we have 9 more up here, mostly the same stuff, but there might be a couple differences between draft and bottle, but we should have whatever we have on draft in bottles. But now, what I want to do is go over beer styles. There's a lot more different styles than maybe a lot of you know about. What everyone's used to are lagers. So like Molson Canadian, Bud Light, all that stuff. Those are all lagers. Even light beers are all lagers. So the pale lager on this one, that's pretty much what you call what I just said, the Molson Canadian, the light beers, all that stuff. It's your basic beer. We're gonna have like 20 to 30 of those beers anyway because it sells, especially in Windsor. The next one up is your blonde ale. But basically, the difference between an ale and a lager is just how they're made. A lager is made, the temperature when it's fermented is colder than an ale. So a lot of blonde ales will taste very similar to lagers. So we have a blonde ale, if we run out of lager, give the customer a blonde ale because that's a good substitute. Just like a lager, it's a very clean beer. It's not as filtered as a lager. A lager, if you take a look, actually, if we can start with soft. Actually, no, we'll wait for that. We'll wait for that. The ales might have a little bit more haziness to them. That's just all I'm going to say. They're low in bitterness. They're very easy drinking. But these are your regular stuff. If people ask for just a regular beer, which you're probably going to get a lot of around here, I want a regular beer. It's either a blonde ale or a lager. Now we're getting into kind of the crazy stuff. So the next up is the pale ale, the India Pale Ale. So if you ever had any hoppy beers, anything that tastes like pine, maybe citrus, grapefruit is a big one with these. The smell just hits your nose and it kind of smacks you in the face a little bit. That's pale ales to India Pale Ales. India Pale Ale just means it has more hops than pale ale. Pale ale is like a light IPA.
Can you explain hops?
So hops is a plant. It's grown in it's almost like a vine. And basically what they do is they dry it and you put it into, they call it the mash. And the mash is pretty much a big boil of what you're going to put into beer. So you got your malts in there, which is barley, and you've got your hops, and you put as many hops as the recipe calls for, depending on how much flavor you want and how much bitterness.
Okay, so it controls the bitterness?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the main thing, and it does control the flavor as well. But you can also put in hops after that mash when it's fermenting, and that's when you get that kind of smell that smacks you in the face.
Okay.
IPAs is probably going to be one of our most popular beers once people get to know it, because most people's gateway to craft beer, they get into IPAs because they love that hop smell, they love that hop taste. The next one they have up there, it's a little darker, is your amber ale. And amber ales and red ales are very similar. I'm pretty much going to talk about them in the same breath. If anyone's ever had Rickard's Red, that's a good one. Yeah, we're going to be carrying that. Anytime you see amber or red, it's just a darker version of that blonde ale. So it's a little bit less cleaner, a little bit more malty, a little bit more roasty kind of thing, but it's not, shoving it in your face. It's just a little bit there. bitterness is a little bit more, but you don't taste it because of all the malt flavor and all the kind of roasty flavors that you start to get into. Now we're getting into dark beers. Brown ale is the next step up now. So now we're talking about flavors like chocolate and caramel and things like that. Flavors you might have gotten hints of in the red and the amber, but now in the brown they're a bit more pronounced. It's still an ale, it's still in that category, it's still clean, it's still easy to drink, still has a nice finish, but now we're getting into a little bit more specific flavors. With the porter is when we get dark. Basically what a porter is a light stout, and I'll get to stout in a minute, but a porter is essentially, most people will drink porter and they'll think coffee, because coffee is pretty much, the malts we use in porter are pretty much always give out like a coffee smell or a coffee taste. Sometimes it's less pronounced, sometimes it's more. It also means that porters are bitter, but you don't taste it because of how dark the malts are on it, which makes it adds in caramel and chocolate and different flavors like that. These are very, you could almost call them sometimes dessert beers. They're very much after dinner beers. They're very much stuff to pair with sweeter things and maybe some like cured meats or smoked stuff. Like we have like our pepperoni pizza. You might want to try a porter with that because the chocolate and the caramel kind of cuts the pepperoni a little bit. But these are dark. They're heavy. They're generally between 6 to 10%. Everything underneath this, except for the IPAs, because IPAs can go higher than 6% sometimes, but we only have 1 or 2 of those. Generally, the stouts are what we're going to be our premium stuff. That and the sour ales, which I'll get to next, but they don't have on here. But they're going to be around, they're going to be high, they're going to be called imperial stouts. Imperial means they're high alcohol. They're going to be in smaller glasses, they're going to be, and frankly, they're going to be our premium stuff. And we got to make sure we watch how much people are drinking of these, because you can only drink so much of the 10% beer. But they're very roasty. They're very warming when you drink it. We have a cocktail on the list called the Campfire Stout cocktail, and the stout is the base, and it's kind of like a s'more cocktail. So it really goes well with it.
Just to give it the name, it's like delirium, right? At the bottom, it's the delirium beer. That's one of the higher.
So delirium tremens is our Belgian beers, which is another one we don't have on here. But we do have a list of Belgian beers. We are carrying delirium.
Yeah.
And basically, those beers are kind of in between a stout and your regular ales. The reason why they're Belgian specific, and there's another list on we'll see, is they're called Trappist beers. Trappist means that they're made by monks in Belgium, and that's all the monks do, is they make beer. So basically, I think all of our Belgian beers, except for maybe Delirium Tremens, is a Trappist beer, because those are the best Belgian beers. And they're all very high. It's pretty much because they use Belgian yeast that's very unique to that style. So that's the first thing we'll be getting to when I go over all the beers.
It's mostly draft or is it bottles?
Everything's pretty much in bottles. Everything we're going to have on draft is going to be local stuff. So Walkerville Craft Heads, Chapter 2 Brewing, the Grove out in Kingsville, Frank in Tecumseh, and then we'll have, I think we have Summersby on tap there too. Nice. So everything else will be local, and there might be one tap that has like Coors Light. I think that's what we decided on.
Yeah, it was.
We can't do it.
Yeah, we tried to get Guinness in, but we can't do it because the keg's too big and other reasons.
Top's huge too.
Huh?
It would be a bigger sell than Summersby. Talk about that later.
Well, we'll see what we can do, but at this point in time, we can't do it. I agree. I would like to get Guinness on tap.
We'll probably end up doing it.
Yeah, sooner or later.
I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have it in 2 weeks.
No,
but
we might not have it.
Yeah. But the last style I want to go over is the sour category, and this is big because put it out in the air, and they let whatever wild yeast, because there's wild yeast in the air, they let whatever wild yeast infect that beer, and then who knows what you're getting. but it's probably going to be good because it usually is.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So we will have some of those beers. We will have some specialty stuff coming from Toronto. If anyone's ever heard of Bellwoods Brewery,
Yep.
yeah, we're gonna get their Jelly King, and maybe not right away because people won't know what it is, but it will sell
It's good,
amazing
yeah.
because it's a dry hop sour, so it's a good sour beer. It's 6%. It's not overly high, and it has that. Dry hop mean is what I said before, when you use hops at the end of the fermentation to give it a hop flavor. So you get that hop flavor, you get that sour flavor, and it's probably one of the best beers in Ontario right now. We're going to have a fair amount of sour beers because, in my opinion, once people realize what sour beers are, they're going to want sour beers more than anything else.
Oh yeah.
So, Alex, yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
Probably a million, I can't.
What are some questions they should have?
Well,
What's the first? So you're gonna sell a beer to someone, and it's beer. So it's a sour beer. What would the first line you say? What's the easiest way for a selling point at a table to like the synopsis? What would that be?
okay, so if someone said, I'm looking at this sour beer, I don't know what this means. What you would do is, and I was going to keep this kind of for when we do the beer list, because there's certain beers on here. We have a kind of a scale I put, so there's lighter stuff to heavier stuff. What you want to do is start lighter stuff. We have a lot of gateway beers on here. That's what I call them. And I will send you guys a list. Unfortunately, I don't have the file, so I couldn't put it up here. A list of what I would consider the best beers, but also the gateway beers for each style. So the gateway beers are the stuff you give, say, here, try this, and after that, now try this if you like that. And it goes up in price, it goes up in alcohol content, but it also goes up in flavor and in taste and all that stuff.
Good size.
Good? Can everyone see that? No.
Zoom in a little more.
I have a question. For beer serving those standard sizes, like pints, 20 ounces.
Yeah, so we'll have different glasses for different styles of beer. So the pint glasses are our go-to for pretty much anything. It can be used for anything. We're pretty much going to mainly use it for lagers and pilsners, ales, all the regular stuff. We'll use it for IPAs and pales too. The Belgians will have goblets. Sorry.
Oh, I had a question. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the Belgians will have goblets. The stouts will have snifters, and the stouts and porters will have snifters, and our wheat beers will have like the big
There you go.
kind of curvy wheat beer glasses.
So I was just wondering, is there certain clientele that would like the sour beer, and other clientele that would like, the Guinness, like, a businessman that comes in with, his clientele, or
Yeah, so
just to try and target something?
right away, your hardcore beer guy is going to go for the sour stuff or the IPAs. That's your hardcore beer guy. A woman who might not know about beer, doesn't really like beer, we go to the fruity ales.
He's staying in
We
a frame.
start with there. A businessman, it depends, because it depends how much they know. And you have to kind of judge by what they ask you, because they can go anywhere from being very knowledgeable about beer and wanting like the good stuff to being just like, oh, well, I just want Coors Light.
Hey, how do they handle a question from somebody that's very knowledgeable, that says the server clearly knows this person really knows what they're talking about, and you're not here because he's going to be here Friday and Saturdays. So you're not here. What should their response be to that? Like a guy like you that came in to a beer place that's expecting the server to know everything, which is not reasonable.
Yeah, it's not reasonable.
What would you
Like, for
accept
someone-
as an answer?
Like if someone came and asked me specifically, like about the hops and all the stuff in the beer, I would have been like,
Yeah.
sorry, what?
But let's say in the beginning, the first
So-
week, they're going to be learning still, right? So what should they
Yeah.
answer?
So, like if someone comes in here and says, oh, what kind of hops are in this IPA?
Better know that.
No, you don't.
Okay, cool.
If it's not in our menu already that they can't read, then I don't even know what hops are in that IPA.
Yeah.
Which means, like, just because it tastes like grapefruit doesn't mean, and no one needs to know this, but just because it tastes like grapefruit doesn't mean it's Citra hops. Citra hops taste like grapefruit. No one needs to know that, but it could be anything. So yeah, would it be nice for you to say, oh yeah, this one has, you can list off all the hops and the malts that are in this beer? No one's ever gonna do that. especially at a bar. Like they don't even do it at breweries because half the servers at a brewery don't even know.
Right.
Right? So basically, what you got to focus on is not what's necessarily in the beer, unless there's like some kind of allergy or something like that. Basically, what you got to focus on is what it tastes like.
Yeah.
So basically, if an IPA tastes piney or citrusy, grapefruit, use as many good descriptors as you possibly can. That's one of the trainings that they taught me as being a Cicerone, as specific as you can. So instead of saying citrus, say grapefruit, say orange, say lemon, whatever. Be as specific as you possibly, and it really doesn't matter too much if you come up with your own stuff, especially if you've tried it yourself, because taste is all perspective anyway. You know, it's all objective. So, like, use me. You can use me as a guide. You can ask me if I'm here or whatever. You text me later. It doesn't matter. Like, I will always be available. So, if you have any like main questions of what I should think about this beer, and I'm doing the ordering right now, so I know all these beers, but what you got to focus on is taste and just how it feels when you drink it. And if you explain that in a way that makes sense to you, it'll probably make sense to them.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure. Because you're not going to be missing up all these things that you just
Right.
learned yesterday and then expect them to know.
Right, and I could go there and list off all kinds of technical stuff, and they'll look at me like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'd be like, can I just get something that tastes good?
Yeah, exactly. Give me a regular beer. Okay, well, we have all these other beers. Why are you drinking a Coors Light? Yeah.
And no one's really going to give you a hard time if you come in there and you're friendly and you know what you're talking about. And
I know.
they're not going to bust into you.
Yeah.
Especially like when you learn, even with the wine that's going to come up, you just need to know what you know and trust in what you know, and anything else that comes along with it, just be comfortable in yourself. They're not going to. If he came in, he would not rip anyone apart at a random bar. It's not what they do. If you know this stuff, you just want to know that the person serving you knows what they're doing.
And that's what the quiz will prep him for. So the
Yeah.
quiz that you have to pass to work here, that he put together, will prep you for that basic
It'll also come with
discussion.
experience as well.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
Ton of it,
Yeah.
like if you worked here, so there is actually a certification under mine that was a lot harder than I thought it was. But the idea was we would get this certification for everyone. It's a lot harder than I thought it was. There's a lot of different things on there that I don't remember that being there. So we did decide not to do it for everyone. But it's the type of thing that if you worked here for a year, it's entirely possible you could just do it on the fly because you already know 3/4 of the stuff at least. But right now, it's a little bit different. So everything here that I'm teaching you, you'll learn. It might be a little intimidating now, but it's just repetition. You just keep doing it and you keep doing it. And after a while, it'll be second nature. Beyond there, if Alex.
And we went in tiers, so it's like 4 tiers.
Basically, our domestic stuff is going to be, I think it was $5.50, and then
we have the one Chelsea brew that we're going to be doing. That's going to be
Right.
our loss for your $5.
and then sooner or later we'll get beer made from probably Craft Heads or Chapter 2. That'll be like a really cheap beer,
Customized for us.
Yeah, it'll be only here, but it'll be our $5 beer.
Okay.
So this is
Every day.
all the time.
$5 pints of Chelsea, right?
Yeah. So, and then imports and pretty much all craft beers are going to be $6.50. But craft beers with the craft beers or any beer really, craft or not, it's going to start going up by alcohol volume. So $6.50, I think I had it up to 5 to 6%. And then we go to $7.50 up to, I think it was up to 8, and then $8.50 up to 10. And if we ever get anything higher than 10, well, we're just gonna figure out because that's a specialty beer. We might be able to mark that up. We might be able to do all kinds of stuff with that.
Makes sense.
Okay, did he get?
He's got some pretty good beer experience as well, Clark.
Okay.
Drank way too much beer.
All right, so we're gonna start off with the Belgians, and again, Trappist ale, made by monks, all that stuff, all that fun stuff. First one is Chimay Red, and this, along with the Rochefort 8, is your gateway beer to Belgians. So if people are asking about Belgians, or if people start talking about European beer and how good it is and this and that, this is what you give them: the Chimay Red or the Rochefort 8. The Rochefort 8 is a little bit darker than the Chimay, but it's essentially what happens is it's two different abbeys that make essentially the same beer, just in tiny little different ways. Then we have the La Trappe Tripel. This is the only Belgian right now that is like a golden ale. And it's a high alcohol content, I believe. Yeah, it's 8%. See, if you notice, everything on this list right now is above 7. So be aware of that.
What does that mean, be aware?
Well, when you're serving, some people might order a Belgian beer and be like, oh, that sounds good. And then they'll order it and they'll be like, whoa, I got hit in the face with alcohol. You gotta just let them know that it's everything we have is, these are strong beers. These aren't light. Belgians aren't light. It's very hard to find a good light Belgian, unless we're talking about like Stella, which isn't even Belgian anymore. So, the Chimay is copper color and sweet, fruity taste. It's darker. It's got taste of like raisins and prune, and that's pretty common in Belgian beers. The golden ale has taste of apricot or peach. Now, I'm not a big fan of apricot, so I never tasted apricot, but peach is a big thing, and I think it'll pair well with our pizza that has peach on it. Yeah. I think that'll go really well with that. Delirium Tremens is probably going to be our most famous Belgian beer. It's very widespread. Delirium Tremens is essentially maybe the most popular Belgian style beer in the world. And it's got notes of like bubblegum, banana, and like the thing says, it's like a straight shot of alcohol. It's strong when you get it right away, but it's not as strong afterwards. It's like if you're drinking drinking whiskey straight up. Sooner or later, it warms you up. Chimay Blue again is just the older brother of Chimay Red, so it's darker, maltier, higher alcohol, more pronounced raisin, prune flavors, stuff like that. And then Rochefort 10, which is probably my favorite on here because it is the beer that got me into craft beer. Yeah.
That is freaking
This.
You can only drink
strong as
Absolutely can only drink 2 of those.
That's one of the gateway ones?
No, that one is not a gateway one.
That's the last one.
That's the last one. Yeah, the 8 is the gateway. And the 8 is only the gateway because we couldn't get 5.
Oh yeah. That's the final boss, man.
So,
highest on the menu right now?
Are we gonna get a copy of this?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
You're actually gonna
Yes.
have to know each description,
Yeah.
so he made them very easy for you
Okay,
guys.
cool.
So if you serve anything here, you're gonna have to know all of those. So it's
yeah,
gonna be
I can
study.
send everyone.
Everybody's gonna get that.
Yeah,
It'll be
yeah.
on your menu too. So when people are asking you, you don't want to look foolish. You at least want to know that much, and that allows you to have some knowledge going into the store, right?
Yeah.
And you can also read it too from your menu.
Yeah. Rochefort 10 again is my favorite on there. It's what got me into craft beer. I always describe it as like if you sat down if you were in the Vikings time and you sat down and had a pint of ale, that's what you would have. That's what you would have. It's just a nice hearty pint of ale. Rochefort 10.
It freaking smacks you in the face.
It smacks you in the face and
Nothing
like
you
you
need to
curious.
try.
Yeah.
I think that's what everyone wants to try right now. I've never had a beer that high.
Actually, speaking of trying, I don't know if I brought any chocolates.
Or you know.
I left out the Belgians because I forgot, unfortunately. Well, we're gonna have to try them later.
It's okay, a lot of us have to drive out.
Yes. And the 10% beer is not.
One sip of that is like 2 beers.
Okay, so next is the Summersby ciders. I think everyone's had Summersby. Yeah, it's very popular. Probably become the most popular cider around. It has. We have the apple cider and we have the blackberry cider. I picked blackberry because I personally like berries. So if anyone thinks that the other ciders are better, I'm willing to listen to your opinions on that because I don't drink a ton of ciders, but I know them. The next one was the Thornbury Craft Wildberry Elderflower Cider. We have Thornbury because we are partners with Coolio Wines, and they do Thornbury beers and ciders too. So we said, well, why not help them out and do the blueberry one here. And they said I've never had this, but they said it's their best seller, and it sounded really good. So we're gonna try that first. And then there's Strongbow, which in my opinion was probably the king of cider. Now we're on to the fruit ales and radlers. Now radlers are pretty much grapefruit and beer. So very, very well regarded, very widespread, popular now, especially in the summertime. But because they're very big with women and people in general who don't like beer, we have a lot of them. So that's why we have a big section of fruity ales and radlers. So to start off, we have the Stiegl Cicerone Lemon Radler. And that's pretty much what that's going to be lemonade in beer. That's called the shandy. We will have another shandy on here. I like that shandy better, but people love Stiegl, so that's why we have Stiegl. We have the Rickards Radler. Again, your basic grapefruit and lager beer. No big change here. It's the same as Stiegl. If you ever had Stiegl, just the regular Radler. It's just a different brand, Rickards. So we also have Sons of Kent Berry White. Now Sons of Kent is from Chatham.
It's my dad's buddy's brewery.
Is he?
Yeah. It's so good, actually.
Yeah. So I really like this beer because again, I'm a berry guy.
Yeah.
This is one of the few berry beers you can get around here regularly, and it tastes good. We're going to have a raspberry mojito that we're probably going to use this as. If not, we'll use a Kronenberg Rouge, but one of the two. Yeah, that's one of my favorite local stuff, if you can consider that local. The next one is Kronenberg Rouge, which Kronenberg is very popular. It's one of the more popular imports that we'll sell. This is the berry version of it. It's very good. I'll talk about the actual regular Kronenberg later, but it's a wheat beer. And wheat beers can tend to have notes of orange and berry, blueberry a lot. So if you add berries like raspberries and stuff to it, it really works. And that's why this one's pretty much really popular. The next one is Leinenkugel Lemon Shandy. I don't know if anyone's ever had this. This is like my favorite summer beer ever. It's again lemonade and beer, but you could crush it. You can crush them all day long, all day long.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it can pair with pizza. It's so versatile. And I think, especially in the summer, it'll be a big seller. Stiegl, again, the grapefruit radler, and then we have Craft Head's Blueberry Blonde. I don't know if anyone's been to Craft Head's.
Super good beer.
Yeah, it's their blonde ale, but with blueberries in it. The blueberries are just exploding out of it, and it's hard to just not like it if you like blueberry. The next one, this is right now going to be our only gluten-free ale. It's good. I've had it. It's probably one of the best I've had in Ontario. So it's something that if people need have celiacs or something like that, we can give them that. I've been efforting to try and find some kind of crossover in the sense that it's a gluten-free beer that is also a regular beer that's good. This is the closest I've come so far to it. There are other beers out there. They're just American. So we'll see. I'm going to keep my eye on it. But right now we only have the one.
What do they replace instead of wheat? What do they put in the beer?
Don't know. I don't remember. It's a good question. I'm gonna take a look at that.
You probably know that.
Yeah. That's, but the next one is IPAs. So with IPAs,
There's a description of gluten-free beer.
okay, here we go.
No.
Put simply, gluten-free beer is made with gluten-free ingredients that include sorghum, rice, buckwheat, millet, and other sugar sources that aren't malted barley, wheat, or rye.
Millet comes from me.
Mostly sugar.
Yeah.
That one will probably give you a headache in the morning, that's for sure.
Yes. I've only had one at a time, but most of them I've ever had aren't any good anyway. This is the only one that tastes good. Okay, so IPAs. So basically, again, we start from kind of light to heavy. The Collective Hearts Hazy State one is gateway beer. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of hazy IPAs, but basically it's a subgenre of IPA. It's called technically New England IPA. And they're very hop forward, they're very citrusy, and they're very cloudy. So normally when people see cloudy beers, they think New England IPA, and they're like, oh yeah, because it's the new IPA trend, and everyone who's into beer loves New England IPAs. What Collective Arts did is pretty much take that haziness and then drop the alcohol content so people who aren't like beer connoisseurs can actually drink the beer. So this is another gateway to IPAs, the Hazy State. We got Smooth Operator from Frank in Tecumseh. It's just your basic piney IPA. It's really good. It's really basic, and another gateway one. It's a good one. Creemore Springs Boundless IPA. I really liked this one when I tried it earlier in the year. I was very surprised that Creemore came out with an IPA that was that good. And it's basically, again, a gateway that's just really, really good. It's just like a good example of what an IPA can be. Really balanced, really nice. And then the 8-track XPA. So
I love
this one, XPA means like extra pale. So when you taste it, you kind of think, well, this is just going to be like extra bitter and extra hoppy and all this stuff. I found that it's really just, it is a little hoppier, it is a little bitter, but it's still really balanced for what an XPA you would think it would be. So that's why I put it on there, because it's a little bit higher up on the scale of those gateway beers, but it's the next step up before you get to the really big stuff. You have anything else?
Yeah, so guys said it was my dad's buddy's brewery, right? So when we're at the place, he always mixes the Berry White half and half with the XPA. A lot of people have been drinking that for some reason, or even using the Flywheel and half the XPA there, because they have like a blonde. So if we had a blonde and mixed it with the 8-track, it's like a huge
Interesting.
hit. I have no idea why, but everyone at the bar drinks it. It's crazy.
Everybody, at which one?
They have their own brewery, and like it's actual bar you can go in and sit in. It's very popular in my town, so they'll actually go, like, if someone doesn't like the IPAs as much, then they just use half of
Actually,
the
this is
XPA.
good that he's got this connection here, because if we can get their stuff on draft.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Definitely, 150%.
Send them the contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Flywheel, so that's what they do, the Flywheel and the XPA. That's what
Okay.
they do.
Great.
Yeah, that's real good.
Next one up is Sandwich Right Bronco. This is my favorite IPA in the area. It's a New England IPA, what the hazy stuff that I was talking about, and I don't know that there's any IPA in the area that comes close to this. This is so good that I feel like it should come out of like Oregon or which is a big beer hotbed for the people who don't know, Oregon or Toronto or something like that. This is fantastic. We're going to be carrying on draft and cans.
Go ahead, I was gonna ask you, why is it called White Bronco? Is it akin to OJ?
Yes, it is. It is. I don't remember the full story, but it does have something to do with the OJ.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's like tongue in cheek, right?
Yeah.
That's why I really was cool.
Next is Craft Head's Featherhack Guy IPA. Yeah, if anyone's been downtown in the past 10 years, you've probably seen Featherhack Guy walking around. He goes into Craft Heads all the time. So my buddy Brian made a beer after him, and the beer, yeah.
It's the best thing I've ever had.
And he actually goes in there and drinks it. So
That's why people take pictures of him.
yeah.
It's the feather hat guy for the beer.
Somebody made a documentary about him for that.
Yeah. So they did a promotion where when the documentary was done, everyone should go after the thing. They went back to Craft Heads for an after party to have Featherhack Guy.
That's awesome.
They did a documentary on him, eh?
Yeah. So this is very much a local favorite. It's also a very good IPA. So it goes hand in hand. It's another piney IPA. It's got, I'm gonna say West Coast hops. When I say West Coast hops, you might not remember this, but it pretty much means piney and resinous, whereas East Coast hops will mean citrusy, grapefruit, orange, that kind of thing. And it's only because you can only grow West Coast hops in the climate of the West Coast, and you can only grow East Coast hops in the climate of the East Coast, that kind of thing. After that, we have the Great Lakes Octopus Wants to Fight. It's a great name. It's a very bitter, smack you in the face beer. There will be people that come in here who love that stuff. I used to hate this beer. I now love it. I don't know why, but I do. And Great Lakes, we will probably...
Why do you love it?
Because it smacks me in the face.
Yeah, you're one of those.
Well, I used to hate the bitterness of it. What happens with beer, if any of you are not big beer drinkers, once you start drinking beer, you start liking more beer.
Yeah.
And you start getting a taste for things you didn't have a taste before. So I used to hate IPAs but love stouts. Then I got into Pales. Pales got me to IPAs. I hated this beer. 2 years later, I love this beer.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Yeah.
It's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah. Pardon?
Like, why is it called?
They do all kinds of weird names for stuff, and it's all in jokes. If you go on their website, they usually have a little story on why they called it Octopus Wants to Fight.
Okay.
I like to think it has something to do with the Red Wings, but it doesn't. But I just like to think that.
Okay.
Lake, and then now it's huge.
But Great Lakes is probably the premier IPA maker for craft beer in Canada. We have another Great Lakes Pale Ale, Canuck, which is very nice, a gateway beer. If we could never get an IPA in, Great Lakes beer will probably be the one I sub in. Next is Lagunitas IPA. This is a big craft beer company in the States, and we can actually get it over here. They're one of the biggest craft beer producers in the States that isn't bought out by Budweiser or Molson. And their IPA is their signature. It's great. Did you have a question?
What does IPA stand for?
India Pale Ale.
Indian Pale Ale?
Yeah. And basically, the origins of India Pale Ale is that when the British took over India way back in the day, the story is they had to bring beer over there, but they could only bring certain styles of beer that could survive the trip. So the hoppy, high alcohol beer of an IPA could survive the trip. That is not actually true, but that's the story, and that's what came out.
That's what we're sticking to.
Yeah.
Popping off.
Yeah, that's history does not support that, but that is why they call it India Pale Ale. So Lagunitas IPA, one of the best examples of an IPA you'll ever get. Tried and true. It's been around for 20 years almost, and if someone's give me an IPA, that's probably your best bet. Lagunitas. Next one is Walkerville Geronimo IPA. I like this IPA. It doesn't taste as big as the alcohol content suggests, but it also means it's not as hoppy as that alcohol content suggests. So they call it an IPA. I like to call it a pale ale. It just tastes like a pale ale. It is kind of a gateway beer. I would use others as a gateway beer, but there are going to be plenty of people come in here who love Walkerville Geronimo IPA, and they're going to want it. So that's why we have it. Next up is Left Field Greenwood IPA. And if anyone knows anything about Left Field Brewing, in my opinion, it's them and Bellwoods in Toronto that are the best two up there that actually distribute. So Toronto's got plenty of breweries. We can't get a lot of that stuff because they don't come down here. These two do come down here. They're great. We got a lot of stuff from Left Field. We got a lot of stuff from Bellwoods. It's because it's like the citrus part of the IPA. It explodes in your mouth. It's juicy. It's grapefruit. It's orange. It's lemon, and you don't even taste the bitterness, despite the alcohol, despite the hops in it, because it just tastes juicy.
I'm sorry, you said this was for Left Field Laser?
No, this is for. Is this wrong?
Just shoot.
They shoot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Flying Monkeys is pretty much Flying Monkeys' version of the Freshly Squeezed. It's their version of a juicy IPA, and also. It's called Juicy Ass.
The cans are like
Yes.
this. The can's great.
Yeah.
Can't wait to tell the grandmas about that.
So we're talking about a variation on the same beer, and I say a variation is because they shoot is in Oregon, they use some West Coast hops along with their East Coast hops. Flying Monkey uses just East Coast stuff and just tries to make it as juicy as absolutely possible. They don't even care if there's anything else going on in the beer. They just want as much juice, citrus, grapefruit, orange flavor as possible. And you probably can't drink it all night, but you can drink one or two, and it's really nice. The next one is Nickelbrook Wicked Awesome IPA. The reason that's on there is because it's kind of the opposite of Juicy Ass, in the sense that it's piney, where Juicy Ass is citrus. And it's kind of the contrast there. And Nickelbrook is a very popular brewery out of Hamilton, Ontario. They do a lot of good IPAs. They do a lot of good sours too. We will have a sour from them. Also, salty stuff, then the IPA will just enhance it. But if you want to cut that spiciness or saltiness, don't give them an IPA.
That's why if like you're eating hot food, you drink your IPA, and you're like, oh my god, it's way
So
worse.
why does it enhance it exactly? Like what about it makes it like enhance?
So it's just the flavor, like the bitterness, just reacts with the spiciness and the saltiness to make it just pronounced. And even the citrus, like the acidity of the citrus and stuff like that, it does the
Pretty sure
same
it's
thing.
the border of all the taste buds, right?
Yeah.
So like bitter is close. to
Well,
spice.
and like bitter is technically a taste.
Yeah.
It's just, it's kind of,
A reaction.
it's sort of, yeah, it's kind of a reaction.
They all.
So, yeah.
Just all communicate.
It's good if you. Yeah, you can't sip IPAs. You can't.
So, we'll get to that after. Because there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different avenues you can go.
I know there's sour cream. That has to go.
Yeah, sour cream is fat, and that's why it's right? But yeah, we have certain things. There's obviously beers and it's fatty, obviously, because you can't drink ton beer, but there are certain. Yeah.
That was my best friend.
All right,
What? Yes, he is.
the Roman candle.
Yeah, you're good.
You good?
I would move it a little bit, yeah.
All right, so Roman Candle IPA. This is from Bellwoods, that other brewery from Toronto, which I think will sell that. This is their main IPA. They've had this since the beginning. It's very good. It's their staple. It's kind of in that. It's kind of a gateway to Imperial IPAs. And whenever I say Imperial, I mean high alcohol IPAs. That's what Imperial means in the beer world. But yeah, basically, it doesn't taste as high as that alcohol suggests.
Yeah,
Did you
Good.
not get it?
you're good.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good at the top.
Good.
Yeah, and it has some citrusiness, but it also I have tasted the melon in it too, which makes it a little bit different. Yeah, it's subtle.
I haven't had that before.
It's subtle. And then there's Laser Show, which is our big IPA. It's from left field. It's called a DIPA, which is double IPA. And as you can imagine, double IPA means everything that everyone likes about IPAs, bitterness and hoppiness, you just double it. And you really just blow people out of the water. It's very heavy. This is a specialty beer. This is only for IPA lovers. Don't give this to people who just want to try something. IPA lovers love this beer. I actually really like this beer. I don't want to drink more than one. But this is a really nice beer just to have. I want one IPA and then I'm done.
That's our double IPA.
Yes.
That's the only one.
That's the only one we're gonna have.
Listen, that was definitely a punch in the face.
Left field,
Yeah.
Oh,
I had it one time and I didn't finish the can. I was like, that is just too much for me.
Yeah.
you can have like half, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
This is for people who really want that big IPA, and that's why we only have one, because who knows how many people are going to want that. But it is a good beer.
Just double, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I love your turn punch in the face. That's just what that one does.
Yeah.
There's no other way to describe it.
Honestly, I don't even know how else I can describe, because it is like a punch in the face. Oh God, it's like when you have a
Why would
shot.
anyone want to drink?
Well, it's like when you have a shot.
We like weird things.
Yeah, I don't like those either.
Are you
I feel like you have to like take a shot because you're like disgusting.
Well, the best thing about
Like a smack in the
the best thing about an IPA is that it's already chased. Because of the citrus and stuff, you're chasing it already.
No, I swear.
If it's like that much of a punch in the face every time.
Some people like masochism.
Like I don't just like take a bottle of tequila and just sip on it like, oh wow. I really
Some
love
people
this.
do.
Some people do.
That's gross.
Like I'll drink bourbon straight up, and that's a kick in the face.
You're supposed to sip tequila.
Yeah.
Hell no.
You drink like tequila or do you
Yeah.
drink like Jose?
Yeah, I was like,
Like, are you drinking like Prince stuff, like Patron soda? Like, what are you drinking?
I'll drink anything. You're not
Yeah.
drinking.
The point-
You like the taste of tequila.
it's the same.
I like the taste of alcohol. Man. I love it. I like it.
It's the same. It's the same reasoning he's just saying. Once you get a high enough quality, you can like it because it's smooth enough. And with that's smooth enough.
If you
I
had
feel
a
like I just don't drink it enough, and that's
if you had a top level,
Probably what it is.
oh yeah.
If you just have one little
For me,
shot of it
except
every
Jared
day,
fucking-
you'll learn to love it.
perfect.
it's not bad, man. It's sweeter.
Turns into an alcoholic.
I like gin too.
Gin's just the pine.
I kind of want to like try it now just to see
So this is our tequila flight, which is looking fairly similar to our beer flight.
And that's served with that cube of ice.
Yeah.
Like it's actually a drink now.
Yeah, that looks great.
What? No, it's not shot glasses. They come with a cube of ice. Clark will explain it. He knows what it is.
I like that. That's
People are drinking that instead of like raw whiskey.
Yeah, it's the same. They have it at. Have you ever been to Ouellette? Yeah, so they have the so they have the same thing with their whiskeys. It's just their whiskeys are.
I told you about that.
Actually, the sphere. The sphere. There's actually dresses you can get.
Okay.
All right, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is lagers. I'm going to quickly go over this stuff. I'm sure everyone knows most of these beers.
I know.
Coors Light is probably going to be our best seller. Everyone goes for Coors Light.
For the first month, once people see
Well, yeah.
How do we talk? How would you talk them out of the Coors Light into this world?
So that's my next thing.
Okay.
So, where are we? Yeah, so the Stonewall Light. That's a craft light lager. The idea is if someone orders a Coors Light, we can get them on the Stonewall, and that basically there's like a disconnect I find with people that want regular beer, domestic beer, and then when they see craft, it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter what style, because they have no idea. They just say, I don't want that. So the idea with Stonewall there, it's a very good light lager. It tastes like Coors Light. And if we can get people like, oh, I really like that. Oh, I'm drinking craft beer now. Look at me. Well, all of a sudden, the intimidation is gone, and they can start trying other things.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody orders a Coors, like you just be like, oh, like you should try the Stonewall. It's really
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
Don't just be basic. Keep drinking your
Yeah.
North American domestic beers.
It's like we're gonna have that American domestic stuff, but we also have all this other stuff, and there's so many other variations and stuff.
And I feel like you could even sell them on it by being like, oh, like, of course it's from the U.S., so try something more local.
Right. So we do have obviously all the where it's from. So you can say it's from Ontario. This is actually from Toronto. I don't know why I didn't put that on there. The next one is also a gateway beer. If anyone's ever had Mill Street Organic, it's a very good beer. You can sell people on the fact that it is an organic beer. So if we get any people in here that care about that type of thing, that is our organic beer.
Cool. Is that the only one that we have?
That is the only one that I know of. Yes. Sol and Corona are interchangeable. They're pretty much the same beer. Yes. Yes.
How come everyone asks for Corona first?
Yeah.
It's the best stuff.
The one thing about, I will say this, the one thing about Sol and Corona, I don't know how much, and I don't know if we're ever going to have a patio or anything, but we have to worry about Sol and Corona and anything with a clear bottle, we have to worry about light, because light makes the beer skunky.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, what does that mean?
So have you ever had a skunky beer?
No.
It smells like skunk. It smells
Ew.
like weed. So yeah. Yeah. Basically, it takes 30 seconds for the sun to hit beer to get skunky.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
So why do people out here on patios drink Corona?
Because marketing is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it gets
And people
smelly
don't
and
know
then does
beer.
it change
Yeah.
the taste too?
Why you want umbrella?
It does. Well, no, it doesn't necessarily change the taste, but smell is a big thing with beer.
Yeah.
So if you notice that they shoot right there, you smell the citrus right away, and you expect a certain thing, and
Yeah.
then you got the bitterness, and you're like,
Yeah.
what happened?
Literally.
Because the smell informed on the beer.
Yeah.
So when you get a skunky beer
I would
and
not
you
drink
smell
it.
it, yeah, I don't want to drink that. Well, the beer's fine, but it
Okay.
smells like skunk.
We get to that
Alright.
point, we'll probably have some stuff get away from clear bottles to get
That's why.
Yeah, this is mainly if we have a big light on top of it or if it's out in the sun.
Yeah.
Just something to be aware of. Like these are fine.
Yeah.
This is like
Might be a little worried with like that one in the back.
Really?
Maybe. I might have to test it, but all these other lights are very dim. No big deal.
Yeah, and the license finish don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Dos Equis, High Life, MJD. We have Sam Adams Boston Lager. It's probably the most famous craft beer lager in the world at this point. Sam Adams is the biggest craft brewery in the world, and that's why I brought it in. It's a very good lager. It's very basic, and another one that if someone says I want Molson or I want Creemore, Creemore is part of Molson's, but it's still kind of crafty. But this one is a craft beer. This was the gateway beer for lagers.
Talk about that, Mike. Nice. We should have a couple.
Hendrix.
Heineken we have to have non-alcoholic.
Heineken 00 is, in my opinion, the best one.
It doesn't need to be part of our 99.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well. Okay. Well,
That's because I have one buddy who's completely sober, and that's all he would drink. He says it's the best one. So I take his opinion.
yeah.
So we do have no.
We will. We will. Yes.
Yeah, no, like, that's what I said. Like, yeah.
Okay, the next one's Creemore Springs. Again, this is like what I call like a fake craft lager, and I say fake because it's owned by Molson, but it's Creemore and it's still good, and I kind of like it better than any domestic stuff anyway. So that's why it's there. Sleeman Original, very popular local brewery, Ontario brewery that it has been bought out, but yeah, it's very good draft style beer. Coors Banquet. We have Walkerville's Honest Lager, so it's our local lager. That's the one we sell if they want a local beer. Stella. A lot of people love Stella.
Honest on tap.
Pardon?
Honest on tap.
No, Irish Red on tap.
Okay.
Yes.
No, so we do have a.
First beer is from Chapter 2 over in Fort City. It is maybe my favorite beer in the area. Whereas White Bronco is my favorite IPA, this is my favorite beer. It's called the Best Bitter. It's not bitter. It's an English term for pale ale, and English pale ale is very malty. So it tastes dark, but it's not dark. It's very warming. It's sweeter. It's got a lot of caramel notes to it. It's 4.3%. It's crushable. I love this beer. Yeah.
We servers never tell people this.
This is crushable, dude. This is crushable.
It smells good again.
How's it feel?
Oh, okay, doesn't.
That is great. That is great.
This
Don't
is
like beer.
It's like an IPA, but
yeah. So this will smell like an IPA. It won't taste as strong, and it not as much bitterness.
See what you see
it's
what
like
David
that's not
there
as
right
bad.
there, because it doesn't taste like the one before, but it doesn't taste as strong as the one after. It's right there.
Okay.
and it's a more
Keep your
consistent taste.
Yeah.
Instead of,
Now most of our pails will have variations on that, but it'll be like that light kind of deal.
But this would be like the starter. This is like the okay. You want to try pale? This is the one I would recommend to start with.
Yes. And Great Lakes, that Canuck Pale is probably the one I would recommend first.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
and because I'm such a noob, what do you call it when you're measuring the bitterness? Is it IBU?
IBUs.
Okay, IBU.
So I didn't do IBUs on the menu because it's kind of losing its effectiveness
True.
in the beer world.
You'd rather
They,
try.
they used it 10 years ago, and they thought everyone's like, oh, bitterness, IBUs, and now everyone's like, these don't actually measure anything. They're just like there. It's
nonsense, yeah.
There's something that's 80 IBUs, it doesn't taste bitter at all. So why am I doing this?
People could throw whatever they want on there, basically. So you could just make it
Yes.
up. No one knew.
Yeah, if you know anything about breweries, they do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, they'll just toss up a
they'll just
number,
toss
yeah.
whatever they want on to thing to make it look good.
So what does IBU and ABV stand for?
IBU is International Bitterness Units, but you don't necessarily have to know that because we're not going to, again, it's kind of useless now. ABV is alcohol content.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're at the very bottom already.
So yeah, that pub ale is the only one of the pales that is completely different than the other ones because it is a completely different taste. I call it a table beer because you can drink that at the table all day and you probably still drive home after 3 or 4 beers because it's light, it's different, and it's my favorite one. We're gonna have it on tap and we'll have it in bottles. Then we got Keese. Keese is considered an IPA, but I put it in the pale category because if you ever had Keese, it tastes like a pale ale. It tastes like a pale ale. Like it's very light. So technically it is a gateway.
If you tell someone it's an IPA, they're mad because they're just like, come on, it's not really.
Right.
Everyone who knows beer just puts keys in that.
Right. So it's more of a pale ale. It's borderline pale ale, but it is hoppier than most lagers and stuff like that. Canuck, again, we just had it. That's your gateway. That's the one you give people to try if they want to try a pale ale. Rhyme and Reason is Collective Arts version of Canuck. It's a little bit more citrusier. So if you want to get people into that New England style, that hazy style, use Rhyme and Reason because it's a lighter version of that, along with their other one, the Hazy State. That was in the IPA category.
There's nothing lighter than the Canuck. Like,
No, there is like, so,
I'm like, that's the gateway? Wow.
no, it's a gateway because it's only 5%, but it's a gateway because it's less pronounced than the IPA. So the hop flavors and the bitterness is less pronounced than the IPA. So go from like a regular ale to pale, then to IPA. IPA is what I'm going to spend money, right? Yeah.
It's an extra special.
So extra special bitter is the other one that's like that pub ale. So it's extra special bitter is like the bigger brother of a best bitter. It doesn't mean it's bitter. It just means there's a little bit more alcohol. And I find it's one of my favorite beers in the LCBO because I love that style. It is an alternative to everything. Let's see if I bought one. I did not. Of course not. Why would I? But it's an alternative to most pale ales. It's a different taste. It's more malty. It's more roasty. It's more caramel. And the hop, they use as much hops in it, but the English hops are very subtle. So you don't get citrus. You don't get pine. You don't get resin and orange and grapefruit. You just get maybe some earthy flower aromas and maybe some taste, and they let the malts do the work. But it's still considered a pale ale because they use pale ale style recipes, just in an English way. But this, for people who know the genre and for people who are looking for something that's not smack you in the face, the best bitter and the pub ale are 1 and then 2, right? So, and it's still a pale ale, it's still hop forward, just nowhere near as pronounced as before. And then we got the Spearhead Hawaiian style pale ale. And this was probably my first IPA that I ever liked. So that's why I put it on here, because it was my gateway IPA. So it's technically a pale ale. It's very citrusy. It's got more pineapple in it than citrus, and it's a little bit different. It's very good, and it's a type of thing that can get your taste buds or get a customer's taste buds working towards buying IPAs and the higher stuff.
Do you happen to have one on hand?
They didn't have any?
Fair enough.
Okay, so now we're at Pilsners and ales. So basically what I did here is Pilsners and ales are two different things, but they taste very similar. The only thing with Pilsners is that they're cleaner and crisper, and sometimes they have a little caramel malty undertones to them, which your regular blonde ales might not have. But we also have our ambers and reds in this area because we only have a few of them, so I put them all together. So we have the Frank Old Comrade, which is your amber ale. It's kind of like Rickard's Red, just a little bit paler and a little bit less malty. It's very good. It's kind of like a dark lager. If someone's looking for a regular beer and they want something darker, you go with the Old Comrade. Then we got the Grove, which is in Kingsville. We got their Westcott Cream Ale, and that's their big main ale. That's their clean, good ale. That's if you want a regular ale from the Grove, you get the cream ale. It's very smooth. It's very good, and people can say they're drinking local. We have the Nice Creemore Lot 9 Pilsner. It's one of the better Pilsners I've ever had at the LCBO. This one has a little bit of malt and caramel undertones to it, and yeah, it's crisp and clean. That's the main point of a Pilsner, is that they're crisp and clean. And a lot of our Pilsners are going to be craft beers, so a lot of people like light beers because they're crisp and clean. Well, so are our Pilsners. So we can move them on to Pilsners after the light beer. We've got the Thornbury Pilsner, which is, this says Czech style, and there are different styles of Pilsners. There's German style, there's Czech style. You don't need to know that. I need to know that, but it's not something that many people will ask. Well, and I'm thinking maybe I'll just take out Czech style from there so that people don't ask, because it's a very minute detail on what the difference is, and basically it's just the Germans have a law that they can only do certain things. It's called Reinheitsgebot. They can only do certain things and how they make beer. And because of that, they have to make their Pilsners and whatnot different than the Czech Pilsners, which is your traditional Pilsner. The next one, Walkerville Irish Red. I don't know if anyone's ever had this. It's probably my favorite Walkerville beer. On tap, it's great. It's smooth. It tastes. When you get some head on it, it almost tastes like a milkshake almost. It's really, really malty, really roasty, really good for red ale. And I was gonna leave it off, and I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Steam Whistle from Toronto. All they do is make pilsners. That's the only beer they make is pilsner. They do it well. They might do it better than anyone. Again, crisp and clean. This is in a green bottle, which means it's the same thing as their Corona bottles. Gotta watch the light. Frank No Nonsense Lagered Ale. Basically, Frank didn't. To lager a beer, it takes like 3 weeks just to cold ferment it, regardless of all the other stuff. Whereas otherwise, it would take 2 to 3 weeks just to do an ale. Whereas like a lager would take 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. So Frank decided they were going to lager an ale to kind of cut down the time, but still try and make it taste like a lager. Take it, filter it, make it as crisp and clean as possible. Kind of like it for what it is, but basically what it is a lager. It's your basic domestic style of beer. Walkerville Purity Pilsner. I have grown to love this beer. This is one of my favorite Pilsners. That's why I put it in here. I think it's better than Steam Whistle. And I think it's one of those beers that if we've got a lot, if someone's drinking a bunch of sours or a bunch of stouts and one of our big heavy stuff, a bunch of IPAs, and they just want I want something clean just to cut it, you give them Purity Pilsner. And it just sets everything back up and they can go back to drinking the heavy stuff after that. Craft Head's Aardvark Blonde, that's their main ale. That's the base of the blueberry ale. If anyone just wants a nice blonde, nice little heavier style ale, give them the Craft Heads one. It still tastes like a regular beer. It's just a little bit heavier. Rickard's Red, your basic amber ale, just like Old Comrade, a little bit darker, a little bit maltier. And then we'll have the Granville Winter Ale, and this one I really like because what they do is it's a darker beer, but it's not yet a brown or a porter. But they somehow managed to get like chocolate and vanilla and caramel and all these different flavors in there that you would kind of, and nuts like almond, that kind of thing. They get all these different kind of like wintry Christmas flavors in there, and it's really nice. I've always really liked it, so that's why we have it. But it is seasonal, so it will only be here in the winter. Okay, now on to porters. I do have a porter here. And it's one of my favorites. We will be pairing this with some pizzas. It's Collective Art Stranger Than Fiction.
Can we scroll? Yeah.
I would advise you guys to have a sip of water before this. Cleanse the palate a little bit.
Mess her around.
have some ginger on it.
Water in the shot glass.
Yeah.
There's more. You want water?
And then pour.
Okay, I think Lyndon's already on it. Is that something like that? Does anybody want to your water? Your water. Anybody want a cup?
Oh,
Yeah.
want a cup? I know.
Still too. Anyone still
Oh
hungry?
yeah, girl.
Does burgers go horrible?
They look the same after like a year.
Grilled burger, and we'll do with that pork.
Oh, look how dark that drink is. This is what makes us feel like Vikings, right?
It's a bit nutty, yeah.
This is going to be sweeter, a little smoky. We're not into the heavy stuff. It's not
Chocolatey?
the stouts.
Is it
This
chocolate?
No, we're not in the
There will be some chocolate
not
in
the
that.
nutty
I
shit.
can smell it.
Yeah.
The base is no. This is for the
Really?
moderate.
I like to do something.
You can smell the chocolate.
Oh, you don't like it?
I can't.
chocolatey beers, yeah.
I don't like dark beers.
I can have one pint. That's it. You know.
Alright.
Yeah, it's like coffee like.
Yeah, it is. I believe it's a coffee porter.
That's not too bad.
No, this one's a lot lighter than normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's going to be the characteristics, I think, of all of our porters. Kind of a light stout. Yeah, a light stout.
It's just a light stout.
A little bitter.
Because there are porters that are
Easy to
still
drink.
like
most of them are going to be flavored. I think I have one that isn't flavored, but the flavors are a different experience, and we can pair them with different things.
It does taste like anything. It's really what it's always gonna taste like that. So it's like really good.
That's fair.
Yeah, like the porters that use like dark chocolate, those ones are really like hard to drink. I find. You know what I mean?
It's good for you.
I know, but like I sell, it's just the flavor stronger, right? You know what I mean?
Jody, like that.
Well, we're gonna have a porter that's smoked.
Yeah, that's different. Oh, that's different. That's better. Yeah, I like the smoke better. Yeah.
So this is an interesting thing that he just said.
I don't drink coffee.
He doesn't drink coffee. He doesn't like coffee. I don't like coffee. I hate coffee. I don't drink it. I love this beer.
But like,
And I love coffee beers. So again, if you drink enough of them, sooner or later you get.
It was
the
smooth.
taste
It was
for
one consistent taste though. So.
Yeah.
I feel like that would go with the
Yep. The more you do,
I absolutely like PBR, and I hated it by drinking it, and I started liking it.
when I joined a frat, I hated
Hey, Julia.
it. You got used to it.
Like
Yeah, like
oh,
this
everyone gets used to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
grilled.
grilled mushroom.
I know, I can seriously like last drop. With the glass.
Where I paired a fair amount of porters with our pizzas. We got like pepperoni and cured beets and all different things, and with that coal-fired. Pardon? Yeah, mushrooms. Yeah, with that coal-fired taste to it too. Like dark beers are gonna go great with stuff.
Yeah. I'll treat it like I treat my red wine. I don't like it, but if I'm eating foods for it, no problem.
There you
I
go.
love red wine.
You gotta teach me your ways. I
I
love Moscato. So
I'm interested to see, because you love red wine. I have a sour here that's wine-like. It's probably more white wine-like, but it'll be interesting to see what you think.
Yeah. Ooh, I would say
What's it
so.
called? Sour?
I had Rodenbrock Grand Cru.
Cool.
All right, where are we? Oh, Kraft Heads Peanut Butter Porter.
Can we try that one?
That one's good.
This one is
Very
pretty much
different.
your basic porter with it's almost like they dumped a barrel of peanut butter and chocolate, like a Reese's peanut butter cup is what it tastes like. Yeah, and it's kind of ridiculous how good it tastes.
Dessert beer.
Yeah, it's very much a dessert beer, very much an after dinner beer.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be as good as it is. I'll just be honest with you. I've had it, and I'm like, this is good.
He's exactly
Do you
right.
love it?
I'm a Reese's Pieces fan. Like chocolate peanut butter is my shit, and like, I had this, and I'm like, Jesus, that's something special.
It
And
makes
Shouldn't be this good. Yeah.
it makes no sense.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be as good as
it's so good you don't want to chug it.
Yeah, I know.
So when people try it, it makes no sense how good it is.
There's no guarantee.
Well, like if you look at it, it's beer, and why would that make sense, right?
And it hits you with that Reese's smell
Yeah.
right away, and you're just like, okay, this is great.
That would be great. That is definitely like after dinner. Like you say, if someone's like,
We should
"Oh,
just
I want
have-
a drink. Try this Reese's peanut butter." Like if people like it, they're gonna love it.
Absolutely.
We should have
If we-
a corner of
do
the
we- do we
menu.
have dessert?
Post
Do we have a dessert pizza?
We have dessert.
even dessert beer menu. Yeah, like
Let's go with that. Like Nutella for sure.
This would be
Yeah.
the pair for by far.
dessert beer menu. Just 10 beers on the side of our menu, like straight up.
We can do a dessert beer. I have like over 99 beers. I could probably pick 10 out that are.
Yeah, that would be good dessert beers. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I want to try this beer so bad.
Okay, so the next one is what we just tried. It's like
Latest
Dark
spot.
Stranger Than Fiction, smoky coffee, hints of chocolate, a little bit of caramel.
Wow. The description matches the taste very well. I like
Yeah.
that. You only know when you try.
The next one, did I do that wrong? I did, so I'm gonna have to switch out later. That's an oatmeal brown ale. It should have been in the last section. This is left field again. This is taking a brown ale to a point where it's almost a porter, but not yet a porter. So it's got kind of a heavier taste. Whereas if you try that one, it's kind of smooth. Not a lot of head on it. You don't taste a lot of carbonation. Whereas the brown ale, there is going to be more carbonation. It's going to be a little bit rougher, but the malts and stuff are the same. And there's that oatmeal taste to it. Actually, oatmeal is a good way of describing it because that oaty taste, kind of that rough oaty taste, is prevalent in this beer. And it pairs well with a lot of different things on our menu. And we needed I wanted to get a couple brown ales on here. Unfortunately, we could only get one, and this is the best one anyway. So that we got that one.
Can you send out that original kind of?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like where you explain all the brown ales.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you send that out to everyone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I feel like everyone can go through that.
Yeah.
Well, you need to know that basic chart just to explain everything to you.
Yeah.
You can always be followed.
Well, yeah, I'll send everything out. You can have everything I have. Clifford Porter is our basic porter. So yeah, it still has coffee notes and chocolate notes, but it's not flavored. It's probably our only porter that isn't flavored. Right. It's our only porter that isn't flavored somehow. It's very good. It's sweet, but not too sweet. It's your basic porter. It's your gateway to stout. If someone just say, "What's a porter?" Give them the Clifford. Left field bricks and mortar. If you thought that one had a lot of coffee, the bricks and mortar is like a sweet cappuccino espresso. It's fantastic. It's like the best parts of coffee, in my opinion, all the sweetness and the good parts without the bitterness. And it's maybe one of my favorite porters ever. And it's seasonal, but we can get it in just in time for opening, and they'll have it for the next probably 3 or 4 months. So this will be very good. And then the last one is our smoked porter. And we bring this in because I always like to have one smoked beer, and I've had this porter, and it goes really well with food pairings, and it's a really different style. The smoke, you'll be able to smell it, you'll be able to taste it. It's like if you ever made anything with liquid smoke. You get that smoky smell, and you don't think it would work until you try it, and it does, and it works, pairs well with all kinds of great stuff, and that's why that's on there. Next, we only have one of the next one. I'd like to get more, but there's only so many that are available, and this is a Saison. A Saison is I have sold so many people on craft beer by giving them a Saison that I don't know that there's any other gateway beer, any other better gateway beer, as a style anyway. Basically, a Saison is like a light Belgian in a way. You still get a lot of those kind of banana, bubblegum, floral, earthy notes that you get from Belgian beers, but it's way down. Well, this is 5.8, so it's still pretty high. It's high for a Saison, but it's still pretty low to everywhere else. And this will also have clove and stuff like coriander and that kind of winter spices in it.
Why is it so expensive?
Because it's in a big bottle.
It is a big bottle.
Yeah.
So that's the only way we carry it, right?
And it's the only one.
So I just wanted to know. I want to know if there was like something to add. Like if someone goes, "Okay, why is it $50?" and we just got to go through the list.
That's-
What it's like.
Yeah.
So could you split it between?
Yes. Yeah, that's a type of thing. You would get it for 2 people, or and if you notice, a lot of these beers. I don't know if that might have been the first one. I put the 500 milliliters. You'll see that, and that pretty much once you see that beneath the bottle, and it goes by size. There's 750 and whatnot. Yeah.
We're gonna have different sizes with the same beer.
No, we're gonna have different sizes depending on beer, but not at the same beer.
Okay.
The beer will be in one size only. We might be only be able to get it in that size. Okay, but yeah, that's your. I've turned down so many people to beer. That's your gateway to actually trying new things. Whereas before we were talking about gateways, taking a path, taking a ladder up. This is the one that you give them. And you're just like, I've never had anything like this, but I really like this.
Yeah.
I don't understand. This is light. This is easy to drink. This is all these different things, but I taste all these different things. I didn't know a beer could be this way. That's that one. And it is also gateway to Belgian beers. Okay, after that, now we're into the sour ales. So,
I really want to try this one.
there's not a whole lot in this one, so please don't be too generous. But I do have another one here that we can try as well.
I don't think it is.
But that one,
I think we need all capital for this one.
Cash one to let you know it's 3:30.
okay. Okay, we'll go through this pretty quickly then. I do want you guys to try this though, just because if you've never had sour ales, you're going to need to at least know the taste.
I liked them until I tried that Pinewell one at Fog.
Pine
It was Pinewell. It was very, very sour, and I had to give it away.
It might have been from Craft.
Might have been. That's how
See, don't ever, that's one thing. Don't ever tell a customer it's infected.
If you drink a vodka,
Because that doesn't mean it's not bad beer.
It's not gonna taste like
There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, that's completely different.
It's like wine. You know how you smell
It tastes
wine?
like wine.
It's the same kind of scent as wine because it's
Yeah.
that.
It's vinegary.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
It's fermented.
Acid, yeah.
Yeah, like,
Oh, I don't even think I can drink that. I'm not gonna.
kind of like vermouth.
It's like making by high school.
It's almost like apple cider vinegar.
I really don't think I do. My eyes are not watering.
That was from Bog Ring.
Oh no, don't have her do this. Sour's not for her.
Alright, so,
Sour.
yes.
That one's okay.
So, with sour ales,
If you don't like vinegar, you don't like sour, don't do it.
they're going to be acidy. They're going to kind of like vinegar.
You got a
They're
healthy body?
Compare sour
fruit first and foremost. Any kind of fruit, anything you can pair sours with.
I like
Some of our sours are, but
It's not even that.
sour ales can be, they're always sour, but they're always different tastes because of how they're fermented. So it's hard to like, even like batches can be different.
I'm so confused.
So it's hard to pair things with
It
it.
smells disgusting. It actually doesn't taste bad. Like the
So we carry that, and we carry one called the vintage that is even
Margarita in that. Yeah.
better than that.
Vinegars and like oils and stuff.
I have one more here if you guys want to try it. This is a lighter sour.
I would love to.
I'm so confused.
I like that a lot.
I feel tipsy already because I'm just not used to beer. Like one beer makes me.
Which one's this one?
No, but the smell of it.
This is a raspberry Uber, so it's a raspberry sour, but it's a Berliner Weiss, and all a Berliner Weiss means is that it's a lighter sour. It's a German sour, so they couldn't go really heavy on it. This is a gateway. This is also could be used in our raspberry mojito because it's very good raspberry beer.
Are we gonna get to a cocktail?
That's what I want.
Same couple.
Cocktail.
I didn't see raspberry together. I must have missed it.
There's like 3 cocktail lists going around, so I can show. I think I printed one out. I can,
Whatever you got, we'll go off.
yeah.
People don't have to go to blind out when they can come to you.
So yeah, we've got a bunch of sour. We've got a bunch of like flavored sour ales. The flavored ones are pretty much what the title suggests.
Looks good.
The big sour ales are Jelly King. We're going to get the regular Jelly King. It's dry hopped, so it's got hop flavor. When people figure it out, we're going to sell a lot of it. We're also going to try and get in, because Bellwoods usually does variations on their Jelly King with different fruits and different ingredients. No, well, kinda.
Has raspberries.
No.
I can smell raspberries.
Yeah, like a really sour candy, sure, yeah.
I don't know how I feel yet about them. I don't know if I could drink a
Our
pint
Ebb
of
and Flow Session Sour
This
is
tastes more like
2%, so it's another gateway sour.
I can smell the raspberry.
this. Like it's good. I just don't know if I could drink a whole pint of it.
It's all raspberry.
Yeah.
I would really like it. I love sour.
You would serve it in a bottle, you would give them glasses, and you would probably serve at the table. Now we haven't gone through that yet. And Cash kind of like the idea, but we haven't like
I love it.
set it in stone that we're gonna do that yet.
Oh my God.
That was kind of my idea. You'd give them like with this, you'd give them like goblets or snifters, and then you pour it in there.
I just like, I don't know, I like the reaction you get.
Yeah,
It's good.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that one.
Like your mouth even like is like
She's ready.
Yeah.
reacting to it. Right? It's delicious.
I'm so confused.
Sour is like.
That's like honestly like raspberry vinaigrette. Like that's what it is a lot like, but just way sour.
You like that
Instead of waking up in the morning and having vinegar, just do
Actually, don't
this.
mind them, which is
Cleanse your
very
body.
Why not?
The smell is disgusting.
You're so
I'm like,
afraid of it.
I didn't want to drink it because of how it smells. But when I actually tasted it, like,
I like that
I
one.
like sour things, so it was like, it's different.
That might be. Oh, he's gone.
I feel like
That
it's
can be
gonna
on the
shock
dessert
people.
list.
I don't know, like.
Yeah, well, it definitely will shock people.
It's
That
gonna be,
mojito's
When they
gonna be
get
good.
shocked, they're gonna buy more because they're great.
yeah, it's gonna
I'm
be.
excited for that mojito though, because that's gonna taste really good.
I feel like it's gonna be hard for like people to make a residents to actually get it. So it's gonna be like, it's good that we're trying it because I'm like,
So the mojito, we're gonna have to figure it out. But I'm pretty sure we can cork that bottle.
Yeah, we can.
And the idea is we would just, have the bottle underneath.
We're excited about this.
So
This is
the
like
problem with
something
doing
to tell people and
cocktails with these beers is that we can't use the whole beer.
sliders on
Right?
freaking.
So with that one, I think it'll be fine. So we can cork the bottle, put it underneath, and it'll be fine.
Well, I was saying we could even keep it in the fridge behind us as well. Like,
Yeah, like for the night. I'm just saying, like even a couple days, that'll be fine if it's corked.
so I just mean like throughout the night, just keep it chilled.
Yeah.
You know, we can always keep it
on
in
wood.
the
So this is supposed to be next.
Or wait, no, that's where he's been. Yeah.
Okay, so stouts now.
Alex.
These are my favorite beers. These are the darkest beers we have. These are probably going to be some of the highest alcohol stuff, except for the Belgians and the sours. Guinness is our main one. We're not going to be able to get on draft yet. We will have it in cans. It will sell.
Unless there's a little ball at the bottom, don't freak out.
We just put the whole can. I want to do it the same thing, half and finish.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about like steak.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, because you know how we do this. We're gonna
Yeah.
Is there gonna be a way we're gonna have to figure that out too?
I will figure it out. Yeah, and I'll
Only ever pour it out of a tap, and if I get a can, I'm drinking it myself, so I just pound it.
Right.
It's huge.
Right.
No, there's a problem. The Guinness has some.
They have their own style, their own way of doing things.
It gets
that
the
works
high
for them.
perfect.
It's so.
Are we gonna need that
It's
nitrous?
different.
It's once you learn it, it's not
Okay. We're gonna figure that out later.
So all of our stouts are very good. Obviously, they go really high.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah. It's from Quebec.
It's so good.
If we ever get if I can ever get my hands on JDCL anything, we're probably gonna carry it because they're amazing.
When I lived in Montreal, I loved their beer. Like it's crazy.
If I could get Peche Martel, it would be there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Flying Monkey's Chocolate Manifesto is a chocolate bomb. It's like, yeah, it's like they put a giant. Yes, absolutely. Maybe the most dessert beer thing we have.
You can have half a cup of that. Like, it's-
Yeah, it is a chocolate bomb.
thick milkshake.
The other ones are imperial stouts, which means they're going to be a little bitter, with a lot of coffee. They're going to taste more like it's going to be like strong Guinness. Yeah. And then. Sorry, Alex, I'm running through this here. Our last style, when he gets it up, is wheat beer / wit beer. Wit beer is just a Belgian way of saying wheat beer. Got it?
Did that say blood of something? I missed it.
Yeah, it said Blood of Cthulhu. So that's just an imperial stout from Sawdust City in Toronto. And it's, again, a very thick, bitter stout. And it's very good, but it's high alcohol.
It is.
And it's like syrup kind of thing. That's how thick it is.
So if it says blood, would it be thick? Are they all?
No, that's just what they call it. Yeah. So so now we got Kronenberg Blanc, which is your gateway wheat beer. Now these are all gateway beers anyway. Wheat beers are easy to drink. They're a little heavy after a while, but they taste very good. They're easy to drink, and they're crisp, they're clean, and they're from all different areas. This Kronenberg from France, got a lot of banana and bubble gum in this one. Very good. Next one, Hacker Shore. This is your quintessential German Weiss beer, which is German for wheat. It is in a bigger bottle, but it is probably the best Weiss beer I've ever had. Next one is Side Launch Wheat. It is one of my favorite wheat beers that you can get regularly, that we can get regularly to come in, but regularly in Ontario anyway. It's a very good beer. It has notes of like orange and blueberry with it. Belgian Moon. Belgian Moon is our gateway to craft because it is the best-selling beer in America. Well, the best-selling craft style beer in America. And it is a wheat beer that's light. It's not very good once you start getting into wheat beers, but for people who've never had wheat beers before, it's great. But actually, once you start getting to know it, you're just like, I don't want it. It's like Coors Light.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's a Coors Light of wheat beers.
Give me beer because I asked for that. Even tequila balls is crazy. Do you have Belgian Moon?
Yeah.
It's a tequila bar, man.
Yeah.
You think we got Belgian Moon?
Oh, you guys don't have it there?
Okay. When Heinz Stefaner, Hefeweiss beer. Just another great German wheat beer, just like the Hershore. And then we have the Erdinger Dunkel Weissbier, which is pretty much a dark wheat beer. So it's going to be maltier and roastier, and just a different variation on the wheat beer formula there.
If you can't pronounce the name, it might be German.
Just remember Weiss. If you see W, it's V.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good to know.
And you honestly, after a while, you'll know it off by heart.
Yeah.
And that's it. If you go down the draft list. Yeah, if you want to just go down, I don't have the draft list here, so.
Literally. Get them steps.
There we go.
Okay, so first one is Georgia Goat Hefeweizen, another wheat beer. It's from the Grove. It's their version of a wheat beer. Hefeweizen is the same thing as Weiss. It's all different variations on the German term. It's very good. I get that every time I go there. Again, the 3 on the Leash Pub Ale from Chapter 2, my favorite. Summersby. We got Frank Honey Habanero Spicy Ale. And basically, that's Frank takes their ale and puts honey and habaneros in it, and it's really unique. And I hate spicy ales, but I kind of like this one because it's not as spicy as you think it is. It's just a little bit of habanero at the end that kind of gives it a little bit of kick, and it's really interesting to pair with different things.
I want to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really their only beer that kind of goes off the beaten path. That's one of the reasons I like
for sure.
it too. Coors Light Purity Pilsner, which is probably my favorite Walkerville one.
Yeah.
And Bluesberry Blonde and the Peanut Butter Porter on tap.
We're not gonna have OB.
No, because you can't get OB kegs. So we got Coors Light instead. If that changes, we'll put OB in there. Sandwich Brewing White Bronco, my best IPA in the area. And then Guinness whenever we can get it. If we don't have Guinness, I'm either going to go with Frank's Simple Man Stout, which is their oatmeal stout, very kind of a Guinness clone, or Walkerville's Easy Stout, which is also a lighter stout, kind of a Guinness clone. Okay.
You gotta know your beer.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
Good job.
All right. Any questions?
Probably.
Okay. Yeah.
It's gonna take a long
Sure.
time to try them
I
all.
can
Sweet.
Yeah. No problem.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Especially the free alcohol part.
I was talking about the lemon shandy before. I do have one in there if anyone wants to try it.
Delicioso.
That's sour too.
I've had some places I've worked at because there's chocolate samples in the restaurant.
It's more like a Rattler. Like it's like,
So that's the question is cash.
Kind of similar to wine.
So basically, assuming we would do it, we would take a shot glass or a 5-ounce glass and give them like that. And that's a normal thing in beer and bars like this and breweries. It's up to Cash and Hunt if they want to do that. But I don't think
With
it'd be-
drafts.
Yeah, we only have 9 taps.
Yeah, anything by cans.
Reminds me of like that, like lemon.
Yeah, we can't open a can just for that.
But we're going to have ways for people to try beer. People to try beer.
Concentrated
Like,
lemon
way you can try it.
We're done.
And if you notice, our draft has a bunch of different styles. So they're like, oh, well, I want. The only thing we won't have on draft is sours, because we'd have to dedicate a whole line to that sour, because it's infected, it would infect other beer.
That's a 2.7% one, right?
Pardon?
That was a really light beer. I guess.
Yeah, that's the lemonade and beer.
He went through 99. You
Yeah.
done? You
Yeah,
done?
I'm on.
Good job, dude. Good presentation.
Very good.
Oh, she had a question. Are you okay with doing samples out of here? Just like we have.